beautiful and dear students, thank you very much for the warm welcome and thank you for the invitation to your school today. I am very delighted to come back to where I came from. Yes. Small town, not too far from President. And I did my secondary school there. But before I did my secondary school, I traveled with my father in the larger part of this area. In fact, I schooled in a small hamlet you probably never heard about before, called Abel next to Rioke. We used to travel by cable from Kiribo to Abeoru, where my father was a teacher. First in the 70s and eventually I also attended school in Okitipupa to pay the comprehensive high school. I'm saying this not to bring back any particular memories, but to just let you know that wherever you may be, you must or could have a humble beginning. But it doesn't mean that because you have a humble beginning, you must become a slave to the system. God bless your capacity. Thank you very much. I left to Philippines, did jump twice. And I eventually got admitted to the University of Lagos. And from the day I got to the University of Lagos, the University of Lagos remained not the same way I remained not the same for the rest of time. And the reason was that when I was going to the University of Lagos as a freshman, the Jambites, it was very depressing. You have to have money, influence and status to be regarded as the University of Lagos. When I was arriving there, I didn't have even a single pair of shoes. The only thing I had was 40 naira in my pocket, which was the school fees of those days. My dad asking my uncles in Lagos to contribute so that the school fees could be completed. That was 45 naira. Accommodation was 90 naira. Yes. And this was 1989. I'm sorry to say some of you have not been born at that time. If you were born in 1989, you should not be in school at this time. But one thing was that I had a huge bag of garri that I was bringing to the campus. When I got to the gate of the campus, listen to this. I was seriously abused by the students I met on campus. Stop there, Sowore. Whomever you are, never. What is bringing me to the campus? Because the rest of them was like a refugee camp. I said, I'm so sorry. This is the only food I have with me from my parents. They are too poor. But guess what? When it was 8 p.m., the same guys brought bowls. I said, can we test that your own no state guy? And that's different from we have heard that it tastes better. That was where my confidence picked up that I didn't do any wrong by bringing a poor food or the poorest food to campus. Turns out that most of the people who you see are showing up in clothes are not better than you. And as has always been said, the dressing does not define the monk. When we got to school, I'm telling you my background before we go into the nitty-gritty of my coming here. When I got to class, I also discovered that the education I got from free education wasn't that bad. In fact, I competed with guys who were introducing themselves that, oh, I attended a school in London. Like, my goodness, that must be super powerful education. Oh, I went to Corona Primary School in Lagos. Wow, I can't even define my school. I attended some local authority primary school, both in Abeokuta and in Kribo, my hometown. And when we got to class, I discovered that the education that I thought was inferior was, as a matter of fact, superior to so many of the so-called big schools that these guys came from. When the first year of exam came, I did better than those who attended school in London. That's the truth. When just listen, when came vacation, our first vacation after this first semester, everybody left. I had to go back to my profession in London State. Not like a fisherman. Most of them also went back to London to go on holiday. When we came back, everybody was telling their London story. To the point that a friend of mine said, Sowore, we have to provide the story, not show that we went back home to our poor parents. Why can't we just tell them too that we went to Colombia? I told them, I'm not going to lie about my background. I didn't go to Colombia and I didn't have money to go to London. I went on holiday in those states, farming and fishing. So we got back to school. Again, these guys are not better guys than we were. But something happened to my life before I went to the University of Lagos. Our small village in Kribo had been invaded by the police in 1980. And at that point, I had internalized resistance. Because it is said that every act of oppression breeds resistance in young people. So that resistance was there, but my parents didn't see it. When I got to PDP, my principal was a very hot principal. And I was also hot-headed, but in a very quiet way. But he kept saying to me that it's something about you, like this kind of paranoia that shows that you are very strong. If everybody came late to school at the Philippines, and the principal asked them to kneel down, whenever he sees me, my client has just come. And he told me to satisfy. But our first resistance, primary school, the secondary school, has to do with protection of females. I don't know if this yes, can you hear me? And flog her. And because of the pain, sometimes these females are kind of maltreated. You can see they are underwear. And then we wrote an article in the press board that the principal was enjoying the harassment of the students. I did not sign it, but the principal, as soon as he read it, said, I know this will not be Omoyele's handwriting, but I'm sure he's the one who pasted it. And he was right. And he went ahead and beat the heebie-jeebies out of me. Anyways, when we were at the University of Lagos, Nigeria's biggest problem was military rule. And by extension, the military was military on the outside. The vice chancellors were also military administrators in their mind. And they did not permit us to speak freely on campus. But we agreed, since and as soon as I arrived at the university, there are two categories of students when we arrived at the university. Those who have and those who have not. And those who have used to like enjoying campus. They will go out to shows, they will carry females. It's not as if I didn't like girls, but I couldn't afford it. Yes. Because at the University of Lagos, if you want to go out with a female, she will first of all ask you to go and buy her suya. I'm not discriminating against female.
So after you buy your suya, she will not then follow you back to hostel. Okay, you want to eat the suya and ask you to come back another day. One time that I bought suya, this girl collected it from me, walked back into Morons. I thought about it a bit, and the stubbornness of me kicked in. I walked after her. When I got there, she had just settled it down. I was going to drink garri with it. I said, sister, we have to share this thing. Because just as you have garri here, I have garri in the hostel. Just as you want to eat your own garri, I want to go and use my own suya to eat my own garri too. And to know how long it took me to be able to buy you suya. That was how we started developing resistance against all forms of oppression. At that point, because I was poor, I saw people come out of my little money as oppression. Anyways, on the serious note, we then went back to work. And we determined as young people, we will give Nigeria a democracy in our lifetime. So at the University of Lagos, I was 18 years old when I was admitted. But because of the task I undertook to take, I spent 6 years at the University of Lagos studying for a 4 years program. I was expelled twice by the Babangida regime. And each time I was expelled, we would go to court. The judges were also as bad as military. They would tell you that they can't grant an injunction against the school authorities because they are supposed to be your father. Each time the school reopens, we will bring our own admission on campus and reopen the school for ourselves and for students. So, on both occasions that I was expelled from the University of Lagos, the school authorities were so overwhelmed that we began to before the honestly, because we find it so bad, we forget all the crimes you have committed. I'm telling you these stories because these days, and you must listen to this, I hear the story that student union have become appendages of the university authorities. In our own time, the student union was not just a student union, it was a student union government. Yes, we were autonomous of both the school authority and the federal government of Nigeria. We used to have our own vanity license plates, except that we don't go to FRSC to register. They register at the student union building. We used to have our own civic day. We used to have a student union parliament. And when I say parliament, the parliament of the student union in its debates, in its organization was better and is far better than the Nigerian National Assembly of today. Because there are senators in Nigeria today, House of Rep members in Nigeria that don't know how to write their names. That's the truth. But in our days, there is no student member of parliament that cannot argue for 3 hours standing on his feet. We used to have a real speaker of the house, and we wear the academic gown that we came in with as fresh students. We used to have student congresses, and we used to have the best students match the school authorities when they stand in debate over school fees and student welfare. Before I left the University of Lagos, we had a transportation system for students owned by the student union. We used to have student dinners, and we used to have a rag day where we go out in rags. But today, Nigerian students don't need a rag day because they are already wearing rags anyway. So every day is a rag day. About for those of you who intentionally tear your trousers. But I'm saying this to you that we were prepared for the future of Nigeria. And at a point, we took it to the next level, which is that it was our time to take over the leadership of the country. And our first update was 1992 that we must drive out the military. Babangida did everything we can to frustrate the Nigerian students at that time. But we ended up in doing one of the most revolutionary struggles known as Babangida must go. We almost drove Babangida out. When the military saw that the students of Nigeria were hell-bent on driving Nigeria to power, they decided to drive him out in 1993 after he organized the 1993 election and refused to hand over. Because they knew if they didn't drive Babangida out, we were going to drive everybody out. Anyways, I'm talking about great Nigerian students. There used to be a body called the National Association of Nigerian Students, NAS. I know that it still exists, but it is no longer a National Association of Nigerian Students. I heard it's now the National Association of Nigerian Seniors. Considering that the last NAS president I met was almost the end of my fire. There was a time NAS, listen very well, there was a time NAS had a president that was also a traditional ruler in the Ghana land. That's the truth. Most of the leaders of NAS today are not your kind of students. They are the students chosen by the school authorities and the federal government. I heard, and I confirmed this from the DSS when I was in detention, that the DSS must first of all screen NAS president or aspirants before they become NAS president. In our time, the DSS have not come to campus. It was a different time. So, we fought very hard, and democracy came to Nigeria in 1999. A few weeks to the election, somebody told me that what Nigeria was having was not democracy. What I saw in the horizon, considering the quality of candidates, I knew we were coming to the period of what Americans call moronocracy. That is government of morons, by morons, and for morons. So I left Nigeria, relocated to the US, and I spent 20 years. I'm using my personal story to tell the story of resilience, stories of failures at every level. Even we who let vibrant student union systems in place, we also failed you because there was no transfer of the culture of resistance to do the way we should be doing it. How many of us today come to campuses to address you? Even when we are invited. I even hear that some activists ask you for money before you can bring them to campus. So we left the bedroom, and the bedroom we left has been taken over by speech makers, entertainers, and comedians. So instead of bringing Sowore to your campus, you prefer to bring a comedian to make you laugh. But Nigeria's case is not a laughing matter, and there's no room anymore for comedy. Because why? Your generation, students, you are about to become extinct if you don't fight for your survival. There is no reason, and the things that happened in that time, that the authorities in this country will close down universities for 9 solid months. And the students will not do anything about it. In our time, we would have shut down Nigeria until Nigeria recognizes that education is a right. But look at the 9 months. I heard that back in school, but your lecturers are teaching you the national anthem because they are not paying them their salaries. Last week, I was on NTA, being interviewed in a town hall meeting by Kadari Ahmed, and they asked me, do you not support government
not paying ASU because there is a no work, no pay policy in Nigeria for people who didn't work. I said, well, if it is true that there is a no work, no pay policy in Nigeria, why are you paying President Buhari who doesn't work? Why are you paying members of the National Assembly who are working part-time? I think one newspaper found out that the National Assembly last year sat only 16 times. And they earn a maximum wage. Their annual salary or monthly salary is 14 million naira per head. Yes, I'm not making this up. For senators and members of the House of Reps, the minimum wage of your lecturers higher is 600,000 naira per month. For the lecturer to earn 14 million naira, he has to work for at least 8 to 9 years. You can do the math yourself. But for a senator to earn 14 million naira, you just have to be showing up or not showing up at work. What about the workers who are earning 30,000 naira per month? They have to work for 38 years to earn the salary of the senator per month. Are you guys now understanding why I keep saying that it has to be a revolution in Nigeria? But the revolution will not be televised. It will happen so fast and so quick. And I'm standing in front of you today to say to you that you don't have to be afraid. You don't have to be ashamed. But don't also regret that during your time you did nothing to uplift your generation. Don't wait for the time you start regretting. The question we ask our parents today: what did you do for me when you were in the university? What did you do for your country when you were growing up? The thing I will praise your generation for. You're not doing enough of that, but you are doing something that is unthinkable. You are raising yourselves, and most of you are raising your parents, because of the poverty imposed on the people of this country by the ruling party. And when I say the ruling party, I'm talking about the small minority of people with opportunity and connection, politically, economically, and socially. And in their midst, there is no ethnicity. When it's time to steal in Nigeria, everybody, whether Yoruba, Hausa, Urobo, they are always part of the stealing mechanism. It is when they are cheated out of the system that you start hearing, oh, I'm being marginalized. And they will now be asking you to pray for them. Some of them still want to go and build churches. How can God listen to prayers that are, made for churches with whom processes of crime were built? But that's also part of our problem. Is that when you have a society like our own, of a person living in Nigeria is different from the ones living in the US. But yet, we are serving the same God. Because here, we are praying for your transformers, praying for air conditioning to work in your auditorium. In America, they are praying that it is too cold, that God should bring in warmth. They are praying to pay their bills because there's light 24/7. They are praying that the water will have higher quality or the air quality is good. I went to address some universities in the US when I went to their Luther spirit. Why are you guys not fighting? Where is there no protest? He said, Mr. Sowore, we don't have anybody to fight there. We just want our BC to change our bulb. The bulbs are consuming too much electricity. Mr. Sowore, please talk about climate change. I was like, climate change? You want to change the bulb? That's not why you can buy the bulbs. I said, no. The vice chancellor must understand that the world is changing. I'm like, I'm coming from Nigeria. We don't even have electricity. We're not changing the world because the bulbs are not work.
Southern Senatorial District of Ondo State. Okitibupa and the environment like yourself have not had electricity for 10 years. 14 years. So, when I need to start protesting that they should change the ball, is it when you turn 70? Because if they are not careful, some of you may never see electricity in the southern part of Ondo State if Sowore doesn't win the next presidential election. And I'm not here campaigning. It's not entitlement. It's not a miracle. I'm here saying that the time for your generation is now. The time for us to take over power from the crazy boldness is now. The time to change course is now. We cannot continue like this. And when you get the right person in office, that happiness, that progress that you are looking for will happen to you. Otherwise, this education that you are getting here at Scam. Yes, because I was invited to talk about education at Scam. But education is not a scam if you get the right education. The kind of education we are getting now is the education of the youth. Any education that is just priming you to run away after you graduate is not education. Any education you get in which your skills becomes inversely proportional to your future is not education. What do I mean? If and when you finish with your science tech degree, you end up doing Okada, you have not been educated. If after you get a master's degree from here, you have to be the best Bolt and Uber driver in Nigeria, that's not education. Because I don't think you need to come here to drive Uber and Bolt. But if your science and tech education enables you to build an app that brings prosperity and wealth to this country, you are gotten the right education. Yes. If one of you, after graduation from here, can produce an element or an app or a piece of engineering of Ondo State to electricity without resorting to the national grid, that is education. And I hope you will do it. Listen, and I will be wrapping up very soon and saying this is this. I studied primary school, I'll say, on the slate. Secondary school, we go and fetch water in the place they call Olusegun. Then we go back, carry it on your head before you go to school. But I managed to study geography and plan. And when I told my uncle that I was admitted for geography and plan, he laughed at me. He said, Yele, who is going to buy map? He thought that geography was all about drawing maps. But when I finished, I had become a person who is more educated at the university. In fact, by the time I was leaving the University of Lagos, I was educating the vice chancellors and even my professors because I expanded beyond university. I studied geography. My education allowed me to transit from geography to journalism. And today, my education has allowed me to get to the point where I'm about to push out the old gaps. I don't know what course or study can help you go to prison and come out and become a presidential candidate. So that's real education. When you can have maneuver your oppressors using their own tools
And that's the education I want you guys to go out on. I could have stayed here just talking, but I just want to end on the note of the next election, 2023. I'll be honest with you that our professors are not planning an election. They are planning what they do with every election cycle, a selection. So that's what they did in 2019. They allocated to me 33,000 votes. And then selected the man who is there now, who barely works. But we can make it a real election that all of us stepping out of our comfort zones and delivering a heavy punishment on the old establishment in this country. As I've always said, I have no problem with old people, but I have a problem with old ideas. I have a problem with this corrupt system. I have a problem with this oppressive system run by incompetent demons. I have met them at close range and at long range. And I can tell you that Nigeria has no leader or set of leaders. Nigeria is not being run as a banana republic by a bunch of morons. That is why we must restore Nigeria from moronocracy to democracy. In essence, we speak science to you. We must go into the default mode and install new applications into the Nigerian motherboard. That is where I stand. I want to thank all of you, for coming. And I'm sorry that I disappointed you by not getting you fired up enough to stand up and start protesting after I leave here. Please, you can do that after I've left. Thank you very much.
Okay, please, sir. We want to entertain 3 questions from the students. Sir, please, if you know you have questions to ask, the ushers will move around now. I will not be able to entertain more than 2 questions, please. More than 2 questions.
Nigerian student. My name is Omoyele and I'm a student of University. So my question is concerning Nigeria 2023. Everybody is lying to us. What do you have to offer to us? Thank you, sir. Yes, thank you, sir. So I don't think so the government released and told us that this man is probably forming a job was in charge or parts of the job week. So how did we get to this point where we are not someone like that and we're very sure is a government and still run for government? That's one question, sorry. Another question is how should we bridge the gap from the education I have today to unemployment, we have a lot of graduates. And when, in as much as we want to just try and discover ourselves, it's another campaign strategy. So how do we bridge that gap from the people that are coming out graduating from school and how do we get them jobs? And the last question is, this might probably be the last time. This might probably be the last time we'll see you today. So, and we're not very sure when we have the opportunity to see you again like this. And when you get there, you might not remember me. So I'm going to ask this question. Anything for the boys.
I have a question.
Okay, just calm down, please. So I will answer the more stringent question about what has been supposed to drug history. And I know this question is very important because it has
a very good book. It said, how did we get here? With a drug addict and a drug bearer. Let me say first and foremost that the
drug history
wasn't dug out by the journalist you mentioned. I was the first person in 2007 through Sahara who began investigating Bola Tinubu's drug history in Chicago. In fact, I bought the first documents from an archive in Chicago, 2008, and published it to the world when he wanted to run for Senate in Lagos. Based on that investigation, he abandoned his Senate ambition. So there's nothing new about it. I'm the first to have brought out the documents. So it is also true, and I've said this to the journalists in private, that every fact stated about him regarding his drug history is accurate. They were selling drugs in Chicago and using the money to take care of themselves. And his wife was involved, this current senator. But the very only one, America was also selling drugs, even at the head of state of Nigeria. His wife, Miriam, was also involved. Yes, they are hearing the facts from him. So most of the politicians in the early 90s were drug bearers. And this is a fact as well. But that's the first time we had an inkling into the depths of this drug history of Tinubu. And apart from those senators, he also takes drugs. Why you see his left hand shaking all the time is because he's always injecting heroin through the left hand. I'm telling you, listen very carefully. And so the reason you see that we are not surprised is because we know the story. But you know in Nigeria, people don't follow you to fight anybody until it is politically expedient for them. There is no politician today of note that I have not personally investigated and published a scandal about. Almost no. Yes. Including some of your favorite candidates. But we know as Nigerians, yes, you know, even as Nigerians, you understand, when you are involved with your presence, it is called the struggle syndrome. No matter how much they abuse you, you will still be in love with them. Otherwise, the reason we got here is that our parents, our grandparents were complacent during the independence. So the bad leaders at that time were good. Our parents were complacent in the 80s. That was why when we had someone like Awolowo who gave me free education, our parents opted for Shagari, who was a grade 2 teacher. Yes, in 2015, Nigeria voted for the guy who didn't have wire. When I presented myself in 2019, you guys voted for the guy without wire and voted against me with a master's degree in public administration from Columbia University in New York. So, as I'm blaming how did you get here, search your conscience too. How did you participate in getting us here? An opportunity yet again has presented itself. I am promising Nigerian students an average of 100,000 naira per semester as study grants. Go to my page on Facebook. The people who are saying it's impossible are university students. They are telling me that if you get $200, I mean, 100,000 naira is not even up to $200 anymore. They are saying that these students are paid 100,000 per semester as study grant. It will cost inflation. That's what some students economists on Facebook are saying. That Sowore, forget it. But the same country that cannot provide you with 100,000 naira education grant has the accountant general stealing 450 billion naira. That's the country. So that's how we got here, because we didn't stand up for yourself. And he was saying that what would I do to change the situation? Of course. What is the big deal about the situation that we cannot change? I got free education. And listen to this. In 1980, when I was admitted to a secondary school, that was going to Agolowo, they gave us exercise books, they gave us pen, eraser, gave us so much things. My cousin, female, when she got from her seat, saw how big the razors were. She put palm oil on it and started eating it. That's why you eating the razor. She thought it's sliced yam. Most razors were that big at that time. And we are saying it is possible to invest in Nigerian students so that they are not suffering. Because in Denmark, students are paid $1,000 every semester to go to school in Denmark. Students are paid money in Norway to stay in school. But Nigerian students are being charged through their nose to go to school. I'm saying to you, don't have to suffer to go to school. Because when you go to school, the country is going to benefit from going to school. If you don't go to school and you go to prison, Nigeria will be spending 4,000 naira.
Where is the president now? Okay. Let's start with you.
Where is the student president?